How's it going, everyone? Thanks for tuning in. Figured I'd go live on a Friday and kind of give a summary of everything I've been up to this week. It's been a busy week. We had, I think everybody who's tuning in probably saw the news about Tory Lanez being transferred to a state prison that happened earlier in the week. And prison mugshot photos are public records. So everybody probably has seen the new photo of him that came out. And as has been explained in the article on legalaffairsandtrials.com, he's up at North Kern State Prison, which is it's like 170 miles north of Los Angeles, 35 miles north of Bakersfield, and near Delano, which I think I remember stopping in Delano for lunch on my way to Sequoia National Park a couple summers ago. But it's an intake center. It's not. I don't think he's going to be there permanently. It's where inmates go to undergo assessments and figure out where they're going to be placed in the prison system. So that's a screenshot of it from Wikipedia right there. But there's not much known about like what the actual process is there for him, other than just intake, mental health assessments, physical health assessments, figuring out what kind of security placement he needs in there. And the photo that's pretty much, I think I lightened it a little bit. The one right here is exactly how it came over from the Department of Corrections. But also kind of the more interesting, somebody says, I thought assessment happened in Chino. I think they have a few different intake centers. I think they have, there's probably an intake center in Chino too. But North Kern at least serves as somewhat of an intake center. So he's doing that. And yeah, although this picture is a lot lightened, and this was one that I think his team released right after he was remanded, because booking photos in jail aren't actually public record. They'll get leaked a lot, like to TMZ or something. And I'm assuming the inmate and his lawyers must be able to get access to it, because this was out on the internet pretty soon after he was remanded on December 23rd. But this is public record right here, a state prison photo. So, yeah, somebody says there are 2 reception areas in that area. Yeah, it makes sense that they would definitely have like multiple reception areas in California. Thanks everybody for saying hi. Somebody says he's gone, right? And that just means like, yeah, he's not in the county jail system anymore. He's officially in the custody of the State Department of Corrections. And I've got in the article here, I've got excerpts from his sentencing transcript, which, by the way, is there to download for everyone. I'm going to upload it to Document Cloud too. But Judge Hereford describes his credit for time served. So he's already up to almost a year credit for time served. Why don't they just send Tory to Pelican Bay? Most violent criminals go there. But yeah, those are like Mexican mafia guys and like guys in there for like double murder and stuff, So I'm not sure. I don't know if he'd actually like be placed in like the maximum security like that. It's gonna, I don't have much experience reporting like inside the California prison system, but when I was at the Spokesman Review up in Spokane, Washington, there's a prison right outside Spokane in Airway Heights Correctional Facility. And I would occasionally do stories on things at Airway Heights. And I remember one time I did a story on a therapy dog program that they had. Inmates had earned the right to actually have dogs in their modules, and they were helping train the dogs to be like assistant therapeutic dogs for everyone else. So, and one thing I learned doing that was that everybody kind of starts at square one in the prison system. Like your behavior in prison is what's supposed to dictate your privileges and that kind of thing. So I'm reading the comments here, and somebody says hey Meg, no simple highways. Joe Yanni. Hey Joe, how's it going? Thanks for saying hi. It's my favorite lawyer. I met Joe, covering the Mongols motorcycle gang trial a few years ago with Judge Carter. They were charged with RICO, and they had a lawyer who was straight out of a casting call for a biker gang lawyer. And he's Joe Yanni. He used to represent the Grateful Dead too. So I'm glad to see Joe is tuning in. He's one of my favorites, and it's good to have people in the chat. Let's see, where were we? Oh yeah, I'm the screen. I am talking to somebody about helping me with my YouTube lives, kind of going through helping me put stuff on the screen, monitoring the comments, that kind of thing. But the sentencing transcript really has a lot in there that after covering a 2-day sentencing hearing, we weren't able to. I didn't quite do the thorough story that maybe some would have expected. But one thing I noticed in the article, and that I pointed out on a TV spot that I did the other night, is just the difference between Judge Olmedo's approach to Masterson sentencing and Judge Hereford's approach to Lane's sentencing. But Judge Hereford did say a few things that I've got there in the article. And somebody wonders if San Quentin is the same as Pelican Bay. No, they're different places, both pretty hard places. I loved Fox 2 Detroit. I actually went on there in January. I remember when they invited me on after the trial. They said that Megan the reporter was trending locally on Twitter in Detroit for 3 days in a row. So they said I had a large fan base on there, and I needed to go say hi. So I was like, well, all right. And yeah, I like being able to go on there and talk about the Smokey Robinson case too, because obviously that's pretty local to Detroit, his hometown, and the trial didn't get much coverage. So I'm excited to go on more TV spots, online stream spots, and kind of promote my reporting and have some correspondence gigs on that. But one news that came out of this week for Lane's stuff, because really this case is over now, guys. I mean, there's not anything to share for a while. I mean, I guess it'll be, I'm sure, TMZ and other places will report it if he gets moved to another prison in a couple of months. Because one thing I think happens is they'll take his mugshot again. But there's really just nothing going on in this now. The trial court case is closed. But one thing that did happen is the appellate court case. And we've known for a while now that his notice of appeal was filed. But the court finally did actually create a case for it. So if people are interested, they can just Google, like I just Google 2nd District Court of Appeal, California, and it comes up to this website here. This is the page for the Court of Appeal for the Los Angeles court where his appeal is going to be. And you can just go into search for case information and type in his name, and it'll come up now. It used to just be one case for his for when they tried to knock out the judge, but they've got the actual appeal for the case instead. Oh yeah, the Tiny Desk concert. I saw that this morning too. Somebody says they saw it's Natasha, one of my favorites. She says she saw Smokey Robinson filming an NPR Tiny Desk concert and thought, yeah, Meg's gonna love this. Yeah, I got to check that out this morning. It really is remarkable, and I talked about this with Craig, the Law 360 reporter, just like how spry he is, and for 83 years old, he's still getting around like that, and he still seems to have a lot of energy. That was cool. But so this one, gosh, which one was it? Peterson versus Superior Court. That was when Matthew Barhoma petitioned the appellate court to recuse Judge Hereford from the case and didn't get anywhere. But this People versus Peterson is his actual appeal of the criminal case. So what you can do is just go down here and click here to request automatic email notifications about this case, and type in your email address. It's already got the Court of Appeal case number. And then I always just hit check all and register for notifications. But what you have to remember to do after you do that is go into your email inbox and click the link to verify it. And I've definitely forgotten to do that before and realized that you're not actually signed up for it, because you're not actually signed up yet until you go into your email inbox and click the link. But once you do that, you get you can get the notifications for filings, which really aren't going to be for a while. You'll see it's got the date here. So September 18th, what was that, Monday? Tuesday. Notice of appeal filed on August 10th. So that was just like 2 days after his sentencing. It took a good 6 weeks, 5 weeks to get it into the system there. And really nothing else has happened. The record on appeal that's due on October 10th will basically just be like all the transcripts and everything. And so if you are registered for email notifications on that, probably on October 10th, you'll get an email saying that the record has been filed. But it's not like you can download it online. You'd have to email the court and pay for it, or go into the court yourself and get it. But it's just going to be the trial transcripts, which actually, if people are looking for trial transcripts, like, I think it'd be great to get the closing argument transcript. And right now the court reporter told me it's like $732, which, I mean, we could fundraise for that, but I don't know. I know it'll be cheaper if we get it from the Court of Appeal file, because it's only 50 cents a page from the Court of Appeal file. So we could wait until all that stuff gets filed and see. But you'll see that there's no actual opening brief filed, and there's no due date yet either, because it's so early on in the process. So in some other cases I've gone through, some other lives I've gone through other appellate cases just to kind of show the timeline might be up against. But it kind of dawned on me that a good case to look at would be Weinstein's appeal, because he was convicted, what, like a week before Lane's was, maybe 10 days before Lane's was, sentenced in January, had his motion for new trial denied in January. His notice of appeal was filed pretty soon after that, and his opening brief still hasn't been filed. I think it was going to be due next month, but they've requested an extension on it. But I'll bring that case up in a second. Somebody says, I really hope this exposure increases your following and subsequently your influence. Sadly, reporting is no longer accurate. Yeah, one thing I've noticed is just it's all aggregation. And I'll save this for after the Lane's thing, but like the Petty, Kenneth Petty thing is a good example, because that is a public court document that you can just get online everywhere. And I love how everybody quotes me and cites me, but you know, where I'm from, like at the Spokesman Review, when you were just competing with local TV news, if local TV news got a public court document before you did, I mean, you wouldn't cite them on it. It's a public record, you know, you just go and get it yourself. But in this day of aggregation, it's all just, I mean, I like I said, I like the fact that people cite me on it, but I also do wonder if the people who are doing that even realize that they can just go and get the court document themselves. But yeah, it's been great doing all these TV appearances. I actually did Rada's podcast just yesterday, one day after it was announced it was canceled, but it should be out next week, High Low with Rada. And it was audio only, but it was a good discussion just about court journalism and the Tory Lanez case and that kind of thing. And then I also talked to Cato Kalin, if anybody remembers him from the OJ case. He has a true crime podcast with another guy named Tom Jenner, and I did that one yesterday too. So I've been making the rounds, and I want to do an email update to everybody, sending out links to everything. Yeah, somebody says the recusal motion was just dumb, or he was just trying to bill more hours. Yeah, no, that's the thing, because that motion was just completely ridiculous. And it's just a private business decision between Barhoma and Lane's how much he was charged for it, but it had to have been quite a bit. I mean, Rhonda, everybody remembers Help Me Rhonda. Rhonda Dixon said that they were charging him a lot of money, and that Barhoma tried to charge him $90,000 for it. And I mean, Barhoma didn't confirm or deny that, but if you just look at Barhoma's Yelp website, there's a Yelp page for his law firm. There's a review on there pretty recently that's not very good. It's about how he was charging like $3,000 or $4,000 for some intake call with an inmate, when it turns out he talked to the wrong inmate. But I mean, it's just a private decision that these lawyers who in private practice make on how much to charge, and there's not a lot of regulation over it. So now, I mean, I'm assuming that this is it as far as counsel. I mean, we saw the video of his new lawyers, Crystal Morgan and Michael Hayden, out outside the courthouse, and they're with Unite the People, and they're going to be representing him. So, they haven't been lawyers very long, and they got their law degrees online. Although the important thing to know to note there is that they both passed the California bar exam, which is not easy to do. It's like widely considered the hardest bar exam in the country. I mean, like 40% of Stanford law grads, or maybe more of that, didn't pass it on the first time. So they are licensed lawyers in California, but it's just like Lane spent a ton of money on lawyers post conviction for sentencing. And I mean, how much did he really get out of it? I'm not sure. And you just wonder how much money he has left for his attorneys now, but we'll see what happens with the appeal. I don't think he has a lot of like big issues that the appellate court is going to be like super interested in, that's going to be like captivating their attention. I mean, I think the Harvey Weinstein case, it'll be interesting to see how the timeline goes on it, because Weinstein is just a bigger case in terms of the evidence and the complexity of it. And then he has a lot of appealable issues. So it could even be the way the timeline works with the court. It's not like they review everything in order. Like we could see a ruling in Lane's case before Weinstein. I mean, you just don't even know. But let me pull up. Oh yeah. Somebody asked about, is it true Baya's got a flat fee of $250,000? I have no idea. Because it's just a private, business decision between the lawyers. And unless there's like a lawsuit later on or something where they're complaining about breach of contract or something, like you just really aren't privy to any kind of fee talk like that. But let me pull up Weinstein's appeal. I was thinking like I said, the brief was going to be filed next month on him, but I just saw they requested an extension. So, and which is really common. Okay, yeah, now instead of October 13th, they want it due December 12th. So this is almost 10 months after his notice was filed. Because if I think about it, it wasn't January that he was sentenced; it was February that he was sentenced. So right after he was sentenced, they filed their notice of appeal, and then kind of same timeline with Lane's is the court didn't actually even make a case for a little bit, but they're pretty well proceeding on it. You see, they got the record filed on May 11th, so this is like all the transcripts from the trial, and then the opening brief was going to be due October 13th, but now they've requested an extension to December 12th, which it's so common that these requests are really common. It's kind of undoubted that it'll get granted. So this is Harvey Weinstein's appeal right here. So like I said, it's a good timeline to look at just to see the length of the case, but there's no like set timeline for any kind of case. And Harvey Weinstein has a more complex case. So even though his case is like progressing ahead of Lane's appeal, it could still take the court like longer to rule on this if the research attorneys or something think that they have issues that they need to look over. But yeah, 2024 is going to be the year of appeals. I was telling everyone. I mean, we had these 3 celebrity cases, celebrity trials, kind of all clustered together in LA Superior Court with Harvey Weinstein, Danny Masterson, and Tory Lanez. And yeah, all the appeals are going to be going on next year. Although the idea that we're going to have rulings on any of them next year is doubtful. It could not come until early next year. But yeah, I think people. I mean, like I said, this case is pretty much over. I mean, I sent out the transcript for the sentencing case and want to keep highlighting that and maybe but I already have the hub page together with all the background and everything so people can get that. But I just think we're kind of ending the interest in it, and it's time for everybody to move on. But obviously I'll be tracking all the appeals, like when Weinstein files an opening brief, and same with Masterson and Lane's. Those will be stories, but those won't be for a little bit. But what else was happening this this week, it was a quiet week. I haven't gone up to court in terms of that, but there's always so much to do around the place and stuff you can do remotely. And the big thing was that Kenneth Petty, Nicki Minaj house arrest thing that I saw, because with covering so much hip hop over uh, the last while, my algorithm and everything is definitely geared toward that. And I follow the Shade Room and like Neighborhood Talk and No Jumper and everything. So I saw all those videos of like him out on the street corner and all the drama with the VMAs and the message that Offset had sent. And I was just like, oh my God. But then I saw this order, like people had added me on this order 2 nights ago. And I'm like, okay, this is directly in my wheelhouse. And I remember I told an attorney about this, and her first response was, oh, I think it's funny that it's Judge Fitzgerald. Because people who know the judges and appear before the judges all the time, I mean, of course, there's interest in when they have these big, high-profile celebrity cases. But somebody wants to know why Masterson hasn't been transported to state prison. They're probably just working on it. I'm sure it'll be in the next few days or something. But he also might have a deadline for. Maybe there's some kind of deadline for he could technically file for bail or something, but I'm sure it'll be in the next in the next short while. And then that's another thing I need to do is go get all the exhibits for that case at the clerk's office. Probably do that on Monday or something. But was a sentencing report ever filed for Masterson? Yeah, and it's linked on my website in the Masterson stuff. I think in the last story on the letters, it's in there. But I'm working on another story on character reference letters, so it's going to kind of go over everything, because man, I've just been going through when the Southern District of California or the Central District sends out a press release on like a child porn defendant being sentenced, just go into their file and pull up their character reference letters, and it's like, there's your story. I mean, this stuff happens all the time. But let's see here. Oh, the notice. I was talking to an attorney about this, a former prosecutor last night. I called him just to kind of get his take on the federal probation process for this and how this could have happened, and or just what probably went on behind the scenes. And he told me that like the 10 minutes that we spent talking about this, like Kenneth Petty's probation, being on house arrest, was longer than he would have spent on it when he was a prosecutor. He just said, like, in terms of like probation violations or something, I mean, I don't even know if it's technically they're ruling it a probation violation, but like it could have gotten there, but because they came to an agreement on this house arrest thing, they're putting them on that. And the whole up to 120 days is important, because it probably means that they have some kind of deal behind the scenes where, like, if he's good boy for 30 days, he can get off of it or something. But just in terms of probation violations or stuff that you see in federal court, it's pretty small. But also, I mean, it's kind of funny that this happened, because I saw somebody ask. I mean, some people are asking like, well, why isn't Offset in trouble or something for sending a threatening message? It's like, well, Offset isn't on federal probation, and federal probation is a pretty big deal. I mean, I've heard it talked about in court before that, some people might think probation is just like walk in the park or something, but people who've probably been on it before don't think that. But especially federal probation for something like a failure to register as a sex offender. And of course, it just depends on who is probation officer too, because probation officers come in, all walks. Like, you might have a probation officer who is like, wants to ignore the fact that his probationee or supervisee stabbed somebody. Whereas you might have another probation officer who wants to lock the guy up for 3 years, and that's kind of what the judge is for, to come in on this. But just in terms of like what you see in terms of like federal probation violations, this is pretty small. But the video of him, I mean, I had to laugh when it happened, because the video of them standing out on the street corner, and then Offset getting off that jet, because I think he was in Colorado going to see Deion Sanders, but the whole thing was just kind of funny. And then I saw some people saying that, oh, well, Offset and Cardi must have snitched. I'm like, no way. They didn't. They clearly didn't even care. And that video was all over the internet. So some people were saying that like just fans were contacting the probation officer, but I'm like, they probably didn't even need that. Like the probation officer is keeping an eye on him. So the idea that the probation officer just wouldn't see that on his own, like, yeah, no, they definitely didn't need like any kind of complaint over it. Somebody asked, why is Bijou divorcing Danny Masterson? She stood by him through the trial. Yeah, I actually talked about that on Fox, the Fox live stream the other night. They asked me about that, and I think it's totally strategic. Like it, and I think it has to have something to do with the civil cases heating up now, because Masterson is named as a defendant in the lawsuits from the women who were from his victims. So he's facing, worst case scenario, a really huge financial liability for that. And I'm kind of wondering if it has something to do with that. I mean, there's been statements made about protecting the daughter and so forth, but I'm like, it's a little vague in how divorcing him actually protects the daughter. But it would not think that it has something to do with the financial situation, where worst case scenario, if these lawsuits play out and Danny Masterson is hit with a really big financial judgment, no matter what, Bijou Phillips's assets can't be touched. Like they're going to transfer a bunch of assets to her in the divorce and keep it away from any kind of liability for Danny, I bet. Let's see. But yeah, I'm not sure if anything will really come of this Petty thing, because one important thing to consider is that they agreed to this. I mean, they waived appearance, and he and his counsel agreed to it. So, I mean, to avoid any kind of court appearance or more publicity or anything, they're not going to be back in court again. But one thing, and I saw some people, watermarking the document or crediting me for the document, shared exclusively or something. And, I appreciate it. I think it's cool, but I can't, on federal court documents, I can't bring myself to put any kind of watermark on it, because it's widely available on the internet. And I also have like a little bit of loyalty to this website, courtlistener.com, that I actually donate $5 a month to them on a recurring basis, so I can get their case alert system unlimited. But if you have Recap, which is through Court Listener and the Free Law Project, set up in your browser, when you go into the federal court document system, Pacer, and you download a document, the document automatically gets uploaded to Court Listener. So Court Listener is like a huge depository of free court documents. So like the Kenneth Petty case has a Court Listener file, and if you go in there, they've got tons of documents available for free. And this is back before his sentencing last summer, and it's got this is the prosecutor's memo, but it's got a ton of information in here, and it's just available through the court website for free. So for me to like put my watermark on this or try to, I mean, as a journalist, I feel like my job is to alert people to this website and show it to them, and for especially to me to try to, capitalize off this or act like it's exclusive, you're doing a huge service to courtlistener.com, which I've actually got Court Listener stickers on my laptop. I'm a Court Listener nerd. I've gotta shout it out. But this was before I was covering any of this stuff, but prosecutors actually asked for 15 months in prison. They didn't get it. The judge just gave them 3 years probation. But this document here lays everything out and has a bunch of details from the case over that. But again, the probation violation, I don't even think it's technically legally considered a probation violation, because they got it resolved kind of behind the scenes through this house arrest thing. But it's pretty low hanging fruit. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, somebody, yeah, I definitely want to cover those. I want to talk to Tony about that stuff. I'm kind of relying him on for the day-to-day filings. The Leah's lawsuit against Church of Scientology, and I saw she's moving for an injunction, which if there is some kind of hearing on that, that's definitely one I want to cover. And another thing that's on my list is I saw the news about like Post Malone's ex-girlfriend or something was involved in some kind of legal action where she was trying to get a settlement from him, and they just ended up resolving behind the scenes, which good for them. And now her lawyer like a year ago filed a lawsuit against her because they're mad that they got cut out of the secret deal. But apparently the news is that they just filed something that reveals like details or something from the relationship, and she's upset about it. And I just looked into it. I'm like, wow, this is totally unprofessional on the law firm's part. Like, I mean, to sue a former client like that is pretty bad, but have it be like some like young woman in her 20s and you're like filing stuff about her relationship with this celebrity that's like getting, I don't know. It's like, who are these attorneys, you know? But I was I added that to the list. And the good thing about civil cases in LA Superior is while criminal case documents are not online, you can get civil case documents online. So I wanted to start looking into that Post Malone website. But yeah, definitely, or lawsuit, but definitely the Church of Scientology uh, lawsuits, because yeah, I just saw her motion for injunction, so I've got to see when there's actually going to be a hearing on that, because I'd like to see that. And somebody says, yeah, isn't he getting sued by his victim? And I'm not at this point. I'm like, which one are we talking about? I think everybody, well, except for Lane's, but yeah, Danny Masterson is being sued by the victims, and so is Harvey Weinstein. That's another lawsuit to look into here. But the if anybody has any questions about that petty stuff, I could bring that stuff up again. But Nikki's husband getting sued. Yeah, he's getting sued in Eastern District, Brooklyn Federal Court, which they, last time I checked, they want to do an amended complaint, and that lawsuit is definitely separate from his criminal case. Some people were asking if his video or his probation violation could somehow play into a civil case, and no, I don't think we're going to see anything like that. It's just like a different standard, different standard there for sure. But what else happened? Let me go to the website here. I'm bringing up the big thing you guys probably saw, and I talked about this in the last live, was T.I. and Tiny. They get a third trial, which is unbelievable. It's like, oh my gosh, there's gonna be a third doll trial. But yeah, the U.S. Supreme Court actually had a unanimous ruling in a case involving a dog toy that looked like Jack Daniels, and it gutted this Rogers standard for it's how you a standard that you apply to works that you think have copied somebody else, or copy isn't the right word, but somehow infringed a trademark on it. And it basically determined that this standard was too strict, and they didn't need to. Well, the article kind of gets into it here. Let me see if I can remember it and how to explain it. But I would encourage everyone to pull it up on legalaffairsandtrials.com, because it was a ongoing lawsuit between Jack Daniels and this dog toy company that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the ruling was like a couple weeks after the T.I. and Tiny trial, but it gutted the jury instruction, one of the jury instructions that was read to the jury in T.I. and Tiny's case that ruled against them. The jury instruction is no longer valid, and it's pretty widely known that the Ninth Circuit would reverse the verdict because of that. So Judge Selna was like, instead of just, having the Ninth do it, I'll just do it myself. So it's called the Rogers standard. It's actually named after Ginger Rogers. She was a famous Hollywood actress, and she sued in over a 1986 movie that depicted her relationship with Fred Astaire. And the case law on it and the legal process established this standard that that to prevail, to show that somebody was actually infringing your trade dress, you have to show that it's the use of the trademark that you're upset about is not artistically relevant, and that it's or that its use is explicitly misleading as to the source of content for the work. But the Supreme Court ruled that was too strict of a strict of a standard. So that reversed everything for T.I. and Tiny, and they get to go do the trial again without that jury instruction. But it's not going to be for a little bit. Here we can. Can Danny and Tori be ordered to pay restitution to their victims? Yeah, Danny was ordered to pay restitution. I can't quite remember what the exact dollar figure was, but there was restitution imposed. Lanes didn't have restitution imposed. I don't think Meghan asked for any, like Meghan didn't care about any restitution on that. But what else is going on? The Girardi competency hearing ended last week. What, 2 weeks ago? Last week? Yeah, last week was a busy week, but we're not going to have a ruling on that for quite a while. I've got another article up there you guys should check out. Yeah, I'm not really interested in Jonathan Major's case. I mean, it's all the way in New York, and it's a domestic violence case. I don't know. Legally, there's not that much going on there. And if there's something going on in Los Angeles, one thing I heard from somebody is that the filings have really gone down in Orange County Federal Court. The U.S. Attorney's Office hasn't been filing very many cases, and things are just kind of going down. If anybody has any questions, otherwise I think I might sign off. Oh, the race for DA. Yeah, I'm excited about Jeff Chemerinsky on there, and actually I could highlight this too. But apparently Gascon, I was talking to somebody last night, and Gascon's press conference about the deputy who was murdered in the line of duty. And Gascon wasn't even at the press conference, like initially that happened. But when they announced the charging decision, and Gascon gets up there and talk, and he reads through the enhancements, and the way he says, it's the way he says line and wait. He's like wait and line or something. But somebody said if you listen to that press conference, just listen to him read the enhancements, you can tell he has no idea what he's doing. Like he mispronounces all the enhancements. The guy has, I mean, it's amazing that the DA's office didn't like better prepare him. But somebody said, especially the way he says the line in wait enhancement is completely wrong. Like nobody says it that way. So I think Gascon has really lost. Like I don't know if he had much respect widely in the legal community, but he's definitely down for it. But Jeff Chemerinsky is a former federal prosecutor who I know really well. He's a subscriber and follows me on Twitter, but he just resigned from the U.S. Attorney's Office to run for DA, and he's Irwin's son, Jeff. So that's exciting because I'm kind of like, does anybody have a chance when you've got like 8 people running? You just dilute the scene so much that the incumbent just gets reelected again. But some people are thinking that Jeff does have a really good chance and could do it. So that'd be exciting because, yeah, I got to go back and watch the video of Gascon reading the enhancements on that cop, but apparently it's just kind of a joke. Yeah. Legal jeopardy does Mark Ridley Thomas's son face? I don't think much. I mean, I don't think he's like currently under investigation right now. But one thing I do have to do a story. I was going to do a story for LA Public Press on his case and his appeal, and because I think his prison report date is coming up here pretty soon. But also, somebody pointed out that he is a good candidate for getting his sentence commuted by Biden, not his convictions pardoned. They probably wouldn't do that, but just all his connections to the Democratic Party and everybody he knows in politics. Ridley Thomas is probably like at this moment trying to get his 3.5-year sentence commuted, which could happen. That would be a big story. And I kind of wondered if that was part of the big announcement that they made, and this kind of PR thing that he's on. It's not to influence the sentencing judge or the appellate court or anything like that. It's to show community support for him if they're trying to get his sentence commuted. uh what was I going to say on that? Oh, speaking of Chemerinsky, Erwin Chemerinsky was on the press release for Mark Ridley Thomas's appeal. And when I first saw it, I can't keep track of everything the moment it happened. So I didn't know that the night before Jeff Chemerinsky had resigned from the U.S. Attorney's Office. And my first question, I actually texted another reporter about it. And I was like, I've asked Erwin for comment on federal cases before, and he's declined and cited the fact that his son works in the office. So it was kind of surprising to me that he would be willing to publicly take on and defends a criminal defendant who was just prosecuted by his son's office. But the night before, Jeff had just resigned. So I'm like, that's all timed to it for sure. But Erwin is obviously a huge name to have on Mark Ridley Thomas's appeal. And it would be, a brilliant legal mind to have actually working on the briefing and oral argument or something, but also to have somebody like that coming out with a statement like that ahead of time. It all helps if they're trying to lobby the White House for some kind of sentence commutation. I need to do some kind of story on that, call around. That's why I've been doing all these TV appearances and kind of getting the website going, but I'm also have some other freelance gigs that I do for like Forbes Advisor. I've got a few things to do for that. And then esigintelligence.com. Actually, I've been freelancing for them for like 3 or 4 years now, but they're based out of Spain. And I cover stuff in the vaping industry for them, like circuit cases and new lawsuits and stuff regarding the Food and Drug Administration. So I've kind of lessened down on that because I've been a little bit busy, but there's a few things that they have for me. So probably work on that this weekend and the Forbes Advisor stuff. But I do feel like the Lane stuff is just really kind of behind us now. I mean, I want to spruce up the website here, and let me go back to it here, legalaffairsandtrials.com. But I think sometimes this gets paywalled, but in the end, my archives do need to be paywalled because I need people to subscribe to the website, because this is how I'm kind of what my lifeblood is. But I've got a ton of stuff in here. I mean, everything's linked in here. We've got his final moments, his insults, his all the post litigation coverage, which just went on forever. But everything is linked in here, all the stories, and it goes back to my law and crime trial coverage and the video recap here of the case. That pink suit that he wore, her power purple. But yeah, and that was one thing I was reminded of, because I was thinking about, I was like, all these people just became obsessed with me like after the trial. I mean, everyone was really interested in the coverage during the trial, but all the just vicious hating like it's really just like picked up afterward. It was kind of weird. And some of them, I'm like, have they even read the coverage of this? Because especially all the people who are screaming about the trial transcripts, it's like, and thankfully that's died down in the last week or so. But the trial transcripts pretty well reflect all the stories here. These are the law and crime stories, like Sean Kelly's testimony here, the 80-minute interview. Yeah, kind of brings back, this is the Sean Kelly case. And one, of course, drawback to law and crime is you've just got all these ads on here. It's kind of crazy. But I mean, this is what I covered the trial for. I was with Law and Crime writing like daily stories for this. So if you want to see the actual trial coverage of like the story that I wrote, 8 hours after Sean Kelly's testimony, is like right here. Got all the background in it, everything. So, but yeah, I mean, I think people are over it. I mean, come on. Opening brief, at least. Like, I think it's just time for everybody to move on. We've got the website hub here for people who wanna read it, but there's nothing really else to say until the appellate brief is filed, and then it'll be like, just kind of a summary of what it is, that kind of thing. But I know one thing that's coming up is I have gotten a lot of questions about ASAP Rocky's case. And, I'm still always just skeptical that things are actually going to happen because technically he has a preliminary hearing scheduled for uh, it's November 8th it's supposed to start. But that is a case that I wouldn't be surprised if they resolve that through some kind of plea deal or whatever. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him in court. He seems like he has every reason to not, you know, want to make some big spectacle out of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if that one just kind of goes away. But other than that, I'm excited to have everybody see the podcasts and everything and get those distributed. I think the High Low with Imrata is going to be out next Tuesday. And I'm not sure about Kato Kalin's podcast, but it was fun. And because one thing I'm wanting to do is just expand my audience a bit more, different websites, different genres, that kind of thing. And also I might be doing another interview with a pretty big hip hop YouTube and Instagram place next week. That'll be fun. So he says, growing up in LA, I've seen crimes and criminals, but your reporting, Megan, on trials and cases is very professional. Thank you. I feel like there's such a market for just, the facts and just being able to explain what exactly is going on. Because one frustration I feel just as a reader trying to consume the legal news, like as somebody who saw the news about, Post Malone's ex-girlfriend being upset with this law firm, it's so hard to like actually figure out what the case is, what's actually going on. Everyone says it's a new lawsuit. It's not a new lawsuit. It's just like the reporting on this and the people just lose sight of the facts. And I know there's a saying in the newsrooms that, you don't want to focus too much on the process, but I think that's almost a danger, because if you don't understand the process, you don't understand the case. So you just don't have like factual reporting or actual like anything tied down to the facts that like kind of gives you credibility. But somebody, old friend who's been supporting me, said he thought the YouTube was a good idea, getting everything set up here and having my videos kind of spotlighted like this. So if everybody is able to kind of catch up and watch at their leisure kind of thing. But I like doing the lives just to kind of fill you guys in on everything that's going on. And like I said, things are, pretty quiet now in terms of court, but something always comes up later on. And I'm working on getting the Danny Masterson trial exhibits. That'll be an interesting one. So we'll be doing stuff on that later. Probably a lot going on next week. And then I'll be sending out a roundup of all my media appearances for everybody to check it out. But yeah, a couple of podcasts is coming up and another interview and just a bunch of stories going on. So thanks everybody for their support. And you can check everything out on my website and give me a shout on the YouTube channel. Thanks so much. See you later.